Hey, friend. Welcome back to the Anchored with Purpose podcast. I'm so glad you're here today because we're talking about something that can feel a little controversial in faith circles, and it's vision. You've probably heard of vision boards, visualization, manifestation, or even speaking things into existence. And if you're Catholic, you may have thought, is this okay? Sounds kind of new age. Is it even Christian? What if I told you that vision is deeply biblical, deeply Catholic, and that when done the right way with God, visualization can become a powerful form of prayer? Today, we're going to talk about what God says about vision, how imagining your future can be prayer, and how you can use a vision board as a faith-filled tool, not as a new age one. We're also going to bring in some wisdom from one of my favorite authors, Mark Batterson, who's got so much to teach us about holy imagination and God-sized dreams. Let's dive in. First, you know me, we are going to ground this thing in scripture because vision isn't a trendy thing. It's not new age. It's not a self-help concept. It's biblical. Here's one of my favorite teachings about it. Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. So think about this. This is if we don't have that big vision, we're perishing, we're dying. When we don't have clarity about God's purpose in our life, we drift. We react instead of respond, and we're surviving instead of thriving. I also love this teaching from Habakkuk 2:2. Write the vision, make it plain. And in fact, I love how in the verse it actually says, make it plain on tablets, because, that's what they were writing on. So think about like this vision on a stone tablet. How cool would that be? A stone tablet isn't practical these days. We have other tools we use for it. We can write it in our planner, in our journal, on a vision board. We can literally put it in our digital tablet. God isn't giving us just like a vague inspiration. He invites us to name what he has given us, what he's put on our hearts, write it down and reflect on what he's revealing. And this is a translation of Ephesians 3:20 that I just love as a reminder, because something we're going to talk about in a bit is how God is the one putting these dreams and visions on our hearts. It is Ephesians 3:20 reminds us that God can do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine. So that tells us something so powerful. God can do something bigger in our life, more than what we could ever imagine. And he invites us into that. So vision isn't about controlling our future. This is about receiving the vision and direction from God and cooperating with his plan and his will for us. And it's important that we are surrendering here, not trying to control. Those are two different things. When you are visualizing, you're not saying, this is what's happening to me in the future. You're going to go through this prayerfully, and we're going to talk about this. Now, let's talk about this holy imagination, like how visualization can become prayer. This is where it can get beautiful, friend. Our imagination is a gift from God. When we use it with him, visualization can become prayer. When we visualize with God, we're not manifesting or attracting, we're discerning, surrendering, and listening. So again, we are not putting it out into the universe. We're not saying, this is what I want, God, now make it happen. We're saying this, Lord, show me how you see my life. Show me your vision. Show me your will. I surrender to this. So for me, this often looks like sitting in my prayer chair, closing my eyes, and asking, Jesus, what do you want from me this year? What do you want me to become? Oftentimes I'm writing this in my journal. Lord, just show me your path. Show me what you want me to do. Shine your light on each and every next right step. Sometimes I get a clear picture of what he wants, and then I visualize that. And sometimes it's not so clear. It's not foolproof. Sometimes I get my word of the year. Sometimes it's an image of me living out my calling. So sometimes it is me seeing myself on a really big stage or living with my family in my beach house. And I hold on to that. And then I imagine exactly, what I want from that, like what I'm feeling from that. And this isn't planning apart from God, because our dreams, if we're going about this with an open heart and open soul, these dreams and visions are coming from God. right from God. Now, this is where Mark Batterson's work has been so impactful for me. He has taught me how to pray around my biggest dreams. And in the Circle Maker, he says, if your prayers aren't impossible to you, they're insulting to God. Now, that line always challenges me because it reminds me that God isn't interested in tiny, safe dreams. He invites us into God-sized vision. In Draw the Circle, which is a 40-day devotional that I love, it goes right along with the Circle Maker. Mark Batterson says this, you will never find God's will in your comfort zone. Whoa, hold on a second. We will never find God's will in our comfort zone. That means we're being challenged to come out. And this is why vision matters. If our vision is small, our faith stays small. But when we come in and we allow God into the situation, when we ask God what he wants, when we ask God to stretch our imagination, our prayer life can grow. And in his book, Chase the Lion, Mark Batterson writes, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back row. If your dream doesn't scare you, it's too small. And I think this applies beautifully to holy vision. When we visualize our future with God, it should stretch us. It should make us lean into trust rather than control. So remember, we are surrendering here. We are giving it to God. So if he puts a big dream on our heart that is honestly kind of scary, and friend, I have so many of those big dreams that are honestly pretty scary to say them out loud, but God makes us lean in to his trust. And here's another key principle that I learned from Mark Batterson that I think fits in perfectly with what we're talking about. Where God gives vision, he also provides the provision. And this is just such a great teaching and a reminder that God's calling always comes with God's enabling. When God plants a vision on your heart, he doesn't just leave you and say, okay, good luck, figure this out alone. He begins lining up the resources, people, grace, opportunities, doors opening. He helps light each and every step on that path, and he puts the people and the things in your path that you need to carry out this vision. Now, this doesn't mean it will be easy. Please don't confuse what I'm saying here. It's not going to be easy, but it does mean that if the vision is truly from God, he will make a way for it to be fulfilled. Are you ready for this? I'm going to slow down. In his timing. I'm saying this for myself too. In his timing. That's one of the biggest pieces of trust that I struggle with, because in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, God, this dream should be coming true. Why hasn't it come true yet? Hey, I'm still waiting. Why hasn't this dream come true yet? In God's timing. And we know that his timing is always so much better than ours. So when we talk about visualization, we're really talking about prayerful imagination, letting God expand what we think is possible, trusting that if he gives a vision, he will also provide for the mission. Now, again, it's important to be clear here. Vision is not about control. It's about surrender and trust and alignment. There's a big difference between a New Age mindset and a Catholic mindset. A New Age approach says, I create my reality. A Catholic approach says, God creates and I cooperate. A New Age approach says, I manifest my desires. A Catholic approach says, I discern God's will. A New Age approach says, I attract what I want. I love this one here. A Catholic approach says, I surrender my heart. A New Age approach will say, I claim my destiny. But a Catholic approach says, I trust God with my future. We don't use vision to bend God's will to ours. We use vision to soften our hearts to his, to open ourselves up to his will, to ask him what is his will. Hear people talk about like, oh, well, the universe will give me this, or I'm putting this out into the universe. But here's what I have to say about it. We serve the God of the universe. And so if God is the creator of the universe, how much more powerful is he than the universe that he has created? Now, let's talk about vision boards, because here's where some Catholics can get a little nervous. So in a Catholic sense, it's not about manifesting. It is a visual prayer journal for you, a sacred reminder of what God is calling you toward. It has little reminders of those dreams and those visions that God is putting on your heart. So this can have scripture on it, your word of the year, images that represent the different virtues you might be trying to just put in your own life that, for that year, pictures of your family or you stepping fully into your purpose. So, for example, on my digital vision board, it's got it's got my word of the year, nice and big in the middle. It's got just so like one of my things I want to do is I want to get to confession more. So it's got a person in a confessional in there. It's got pictures of my family on some vacations I would like to take again. It's got pictures of where I want us to go this year. It's got pictures representing, for example, so I've shared with you before, one of my big dreams and I feel is my calling and my purpose is to be speaking on stages. So I've got some pictures of someone standing on a stage. So all of these things, these are gentle reminders. And these are ways that when you take that time in your prayer and you use visualization as a part of your prayer, it's just a reminder. And I also like thinking about it from the perspective of the circle maker. So if you want to see God move, start circling your prayers. A vision board can be your circle. It can be a visual way of surrounding your hopes, dreams, and prayers with intention. And here's where it gets really fascinating. There's actually neuroscience that supports why vision boards can be powerful when used prayerfully. Our brains are shaped through neuroplasticity. I think you've heard a little bit about this lately, which means our brains can literally rewire and form new pathways based on what we focus on. When we consistently look at images that represent our God given hopes, values, and calling, our brain begins to pay more attention to opportunities, ideas, and habits that align with them. In other words, what we see repeatedly shapes how we think, feel, and act. So, from a Catholic perspective, this is not about attracting something to you. It's about training your heart and your mind to stay aligned with what you believe God is calling you toward. A vision board can help keep your heart focused on God's priorities. It can help you recognize answers to prayer. It can reinforce the virtues that you're trying to grow in. And it can gently remind you of your purpose when life gets busy or discouraging, when you've heard a no, when maybe things have been a little tough. It is a great reminder of what you're being called to do. So when you look at your vision board daily, you're not just looking at pictures, you are practicing holy focus, renewing your mind, and keeping your heart oriented towards God's vision for your life. So for me, this is connecting deeply with the life anchors: faith, family, health, purpose, impact, relationship, home. And when I'm making my vision board, I think of all of those areas. In fact, when I lead different dream workshops and vision board workshops, I help people write out in every life anchor what they're feeling called to, what their biggest hopes and dreams are, and where they feel God calling them. And I just want you to know this. It doesn't have to be about your career goals or your accomplishments. We are looking for well-rounded, but really about who God is shaping you to become. It should reflect your faith life, your family life, your growth, your calling, and whatever God is highlighting to you in this season. So if you've ever felt unsure about vision or visualization, I hope this episode has given you permission to see it in a new light. Vision is not about control. I'll say it again. It is about trust. It is about surrender. It's about being in communion with God's will for you. So this month, I invite you to sit with Jesus, ask him for his vision, and consider creating a simple, faith-filled vision board as a prayer tool. And remember these words that we talked about earlier from Mark Batterson. If your dreams don't scare you, they might be too small. Dream big, my friend. I will talk to you next time. Stay anchored with purpose.